As the eviction moratorium drags on, millions in rent relief goes unused. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have another great article for you today coming out of San Diego, California. But before I get into it, please hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and show some support for this channel. I really am trying to bring you the best content possible about the eviction moratorium and what's going on with landlords right now in 2021. There's a lot of things going on and they're just not good for us right now, and especially the small mom and pop landlords who don't have the big emergency reserves to survive such a crisis. But anyway, this article comes from NBCSanDiego.com and it says, "Millions in county rent relief dollars going unused." As of Thursday, San Diego County's eviction moratorium is officially now in effect, but it's only meant to last until August, and pending evictions are already piling up. Courthouse records show since the start of the pandemic, 3,334 eviction requests have been filed in San Diego County. The county had a rent relief program in hopes of shaving down that pile, but both landlords and tenants say the program just isn't working. Yeah. So many articles, so many people that I've talked to, so many people have let me know that the rent relief programs that are out there, they are not working for landlords. They're not set up to be the best thing possible for landlords. And, you know, the best thing that would work would be if we could remove tenants who are not paying from our properties. And that's just not what's able to happen right now. They keep on dragging out this eviction moratorium and debts are piling up. They're only going to get worse. And if they don't end it soon, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. And I'm talking about people are going to lose their properties. And that's not what should be happening, but that's exactly what is happening. It hurts my heart that we've never been in this situation in my whole life, my whole 46 years of life, said single mother of two Patricia Mendoza while fighting back tears. Never been in this situation. The situation Mendoza said is fighting 3 eviction attempts during the pandemic. Mendoza says her family has had their water cut off and her internet cut while her children were doing online learning, while her daughter was taking final exam. Mendoza's rent is $1,500 a month. She says her income only $2,000 a month, and that was before she was laid off in April of last year. Well, here's the problem, okay? Your rent was $1,500 a month, and you only made $2,000 a month before your layoff. You were living in a place you already couldn't afford. So, I mean, I call that the fault of the landlord for putting a tenant in the property who couldn't afford the monthly rent. If 3/4 of your monthly income are going to the rent, you can't afford the place. The landlord should have done better screening and made sure that a tenant got in there who could actually afford it. So in my case, if my rents are $2,000 a month for an apartment, I require my tenants to make at least 3 times the monthly rent in income. So that's $6,000 a month. This lady couldn't afford the place and she was sitting up in there, and there were bound to be issues. But the eviction moratorium obviously didn't help things. It broke my heart to see my daughter break down yesterday and say, "Mom, I don't know how to be happy or sad at the same time, because I don't know if I'm happy I graduated, but I'm sad because what happens when we're going to be homeless." What do you tell your children? What do you tell your children? Mendoza said. The county has a rent relief program to help people like Patricia Mendoza, but NBC7 investigates found millions of dollars are sitting untapped. Yeah, I mean, that's been the common thread. There's so much bureaucracy that people can't get a hold of these funds. And even if they do get a hold of the funds, a lot of landlords don't want to participate because of all the stipulations that have been put on receiving the funds. So, you know, if a landlord can't get 100% of the money they're owed back, sometimes those landlords choose not to even deal with the program. And I don't blame them. You want to be made whole again. You don't want to become the charity for whoever, you know, decides to stay in your property. That's not what our job is. Our job as a business is to make money. To be specific, the county's rent relief program had $107 million. Of that, just $13 million has actually been distributed to landlords. $66 million is stuck in processing, and $28 million hasn't even been earmarked. It's amazing how little of the funds that have been allocated have been used, said Lucinda Lilly, president of the Southern California Rental Housing Association, which represents 130,000 rental units. Lilly says part of why the rent relief isn't getting much support is it only covers 80% of owed rental back pay. Yeah, they want landlords to take 80 cents on the dollar and not be able to remove those tenants afterwards, not be able to go after the additional 20% at any point in time. And landlords are saying, no, I'm not going to participate. I don't want to participate in that. That's screwing me over, okay? And, it's hard to blame them at this point. People want to be made whole. You're destroying our business plans. You're destroying our businesses. And they don't seem to realize that. There's unintended consequences of these eviction moratoriums. And part of it is going to be that a lot of people are going to be in financial distress. Landlords and tenants alike. I can't think of another industry that's being asked to take 70 to 80 cents on the dollar as payment for goods and services that they provide, says Lilly. Certainly not our grocery stores, not our gas stations. Lilly says more landlords would be on board if the county covered 100% of the rents owed. The county spokesman said that's out of their hands. State restrictions on the relief dollars limit the program to covering only 80% of back pay rent and 25% of future rent. Yeah, so if a tenant hasn't paid, they owe you $20,000, then you can only collect 80% of that amount. Okay, so that would be, what is that? 80%. I'm a little slow today, but $16,000 of the $20,000 that you're owed. And then going into the future, if the tenant accumulates another $10,000 in rent debt, you'll only be able to collect $2,500 of that. That's a big enough problem right there alone to make a lot of landlords not even want to deal with it. And I don't blame them. Like I said before, I don't blame them. Lilly also says for some, the application is confusing, invasive, and requires a lot of cooperation between the landlord and the tenant. We're in the housing business, says Lilly. We're not in the putting people on the street business. We don't like that any more than you do. It's bad business. It costs money. It's not good for anybody involved. NBC7 asked the county about the application process and limited aid available. A spokesman sent NBC7 a statement saying, in part, the process is a bit clunky, and through the eyes of folks who are trying to get assistance, frustrating. State regulations currently are more restrictive, but based on the governor's May revised announcement, it is anticipated the restrictions will be lessened. Yeah, why did they put so many restrictions on the program? It's like they almost wanted these kind of bad situations to happen. I mean, they wanted to make it as hard as possible for landlords to get the money that they are owed. They shouldn't have done that, but that's exactly what they did. So it's almost like they're trying to punish landlords. And the thing is, not all landlords are wealthy. In fact, the grand majority are not. The grand majority of landlords, they own like one, maybe two properties, and it's probably a house they used to live in, and then they're renting it out, expecting to use that money for retirement or for other expenses. And now they're just put in these bad financial situations where they can basically lose everything. They can go into bankruptcy or foreclosure, and that's not what should be happening. But the politicians, they don't think about things like that, and all they think about is, oh yeah, let me see what I can do to get the most votes possible. And we are the ones who are hanging in limbo until they figure out exactly what's going to happen.